He is the most hated name in Christian history. The man who kissed the Son of God and sent him to die. For 2,000 years, Judas Iscariot has stood as the ultimate traitor, the disciple who sold his teacher for 30 pieces of silver. A name synonymous with betrayal. A warning, a curse, a villain etched into every gospel and echoed from every podium. But what if it was all wrong? What if Judas wasn't the villain at all, but the only one who truly understood? Buried for nearly 1,800 years, a forbidden gospel surfaced in the deserts of Egypt, a fragile codex written in Coptic, shattered and rotting with age. And within its pages was a version of the story no one expected. A gospel that claimed Judas didn't betray Jesus out of greed. He was chosen by Jesus to do it. This is the Gospel of Judas, and if it's true, then everything we thought we knew about history's greatest betrayal was never betrayal at all. It was never meant to be found. For centuries, whispers of a forbidden gospel echoed through the records of early church fathers, a heretical text said to glorify Judas, written by the enemies of truth. Irenaeus of Lyon, writing in the 2nd century, condemned it by name. They declare that Judas the traitor was thoroughly acquainted with these things, and that he alone, knowing the truth as no others did, accomplished the mystery of the betrayal. But then it vanished. No copy survived. No one read it. It became a rumor, a ghost in the margins of Christian history. Until the 1970s. In the deserts of Egypt, a blackened, leather-bound codex surfaced from a tomb near El Minya. It passed through smugglers, collectors, and bank vaults. For years, it was neglected and rotting, pages torn, mold creeping through the ink. It nearly disintegrated before anyone realized what it was. And when scholars finally began to piece it together, what emerged was unlike anything found in the New Testament. This wasn't a gospel of teachings, parables, or miracles. It was a dialogue, intimate, strange, and explosive. A conversation between Jesus and Judas, where nothing was as it seemed. Written in Coptic but translated from a much older Greek original, this gospel wasn't the work of mainstream Christians. It came from the margins, from the Gnostic movement, a scattered network of mystics who believed the world we live in was a lie, created by a false god and ruled by powers that trapped the soul in ignorance. To them, salvation didn't come through faith. It came through gnosis, awakening. And in this gospel, Judas isn't the betrayer. He's the only disciple who truly wakes up. From the very first page, the Gospel of Judas makes one thing clear. This is not the Jesus of Sunday school. The story opens with Jesus laughing, not out of joy, but at his own disciples. He watches them pray, offer sacrifices, speak of righteousness. And he laughs, not in mockery, but in pity. What are you doing? The disciples are confused, offended. They don't understand why he's laughing. But Jesus sees through their rituals. He tells them they're praying to a lesser being, a false god, a tyrant who demands sacrifice and obedience, not truth. The disciples don't get it. They cling to their scriptures, their beliefs, their traditions. They speak of temples and blood offerings. They want power in a future kingdom. But Jesus tells them they're asleep, still trapped in the illusion, still offering prayers to jailers. This Jesus isn't here to start a religion. He's here to wake them up. But only one among them is ready to listen. While the others argue and fall back into fear, Judas Iscariot steps forward. He doesn't ask about ritual. He doesn't beg for favor. He asks about Jesus' origin and his true destiny. And that's when everything begins to change. While the others played their parts, loyal followers repeating what they'd been taught, Judas stayed quiet. He didn't ask about rewards or kingdoms. He didn't beg for favor or answers to petty questions. He just watched. And then, one night, something in him cracked open. "I know who you are and where you've come from," he finally said. "You are from the immortal realm of Barbello." Barbello, the first emanation, the divine creator, the mirror of the true God. It's a name the others wouldn't dare speak. The air shifted. Every other voice fell silent. Jesus didn't smile. He didn't challenge the claim. He didn't deny it. He took Judas aside. And for the first time, Jesus spoke to someone like an equal, not as a master correcting a student, but as a being recognizing another who could understand. No crowd, no miracles, just a quiet voice in the dark. "You will exceed all of them," Jesus said, "for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." Judas didn't flinch, but he didn't nod either. He just stood there, caught between fear and awe, trying to understand what had just been laid on his shoulders. He told Judas that the world was not what it seemed, that the God worshipped in temples and feared in scriptures, the God of thunder, of judgment, of laws and punishment, was not the true source of creation, that God was a pretender, a builder of prisons, a jealous craftsman ruling over dust and ignorance. The real realm was Barbello, an eternal, invisible realm that existed before the stars. It was the dwelling place of the first light, the domain of truth, untouched by flesh, untouched by time. From Barbello came all divine power, and from that power came a spark, a ripple that became the true God. But the system below, that was something else. The creator of this world, Jesus explained, was the demiurge, a blind and arrogant being who believed himself to be the highest God, never realizing he was born from a flawed reflection of divinity. He created the heavens and the earth, filled them with rulers, the archons, and trapped human souls in cages of flesh beneath layers of ignorance. "They worship him," Jesus said, almost amused. "They pray to their captor." Judas asked what any of this had to do with him, and Jesus answered with silence first, then the truth. He said the soul was light, but the body was a tomb. He said the others would cling to the tomb, desperate to keep their master here in flesh. But not Judas. Judas would free him. Judas would destroy the vessel.
Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story.
In the traditional story, Judas Iscariot stands as the ultimate figure of betrayal, a disciple chosen by Jesus himself, trusted, close, perhaps even a friend. And yet, he's remembered for a single act, one that would cast his name into infamy for 2,000 years. The Gospels tell us that something shifted inside Judas as the final days drew near. Whether it was greed, disillusionment, or something darker is never made entirely clear. What we do know is that he went to the chief priests, the very people plotting to kill Jesus, and asked a simple, chilling question. "What will you give me if I hand him over to you?" The priests offered 30 pieces of silver. Judas accepted, and from that moment on, he looked for an opportunity to betray his teacher in secret, away from the watchful eyes of the crowds. That moment came in the Garden of Gethsemane, under the cloak of night. Jesus had gone there to pray, heavy with sorrow, knowing what was coming. And Judas arrived leading a group of temple guards, soldiers, and officials. He approached Jesus not with a weapon, but with a kiss. A kiss that served as the signal, a kiss that would damn him. Jesus was seized, the disciples scattered, and Judas, now watching events spiral far beyond what he imagined, was left to face what he had done. Some Gospels say he tried to give the silver back, that he was filled with remorse, that he threw the coins into the temple and fled. One Gospel says he hung himself in despair. Another paints a more brutal end. Either way, the damage was done. To the church, Judas became a cautionary tale, a lesson in greed, in treachery, in how even those closest to the light can fall into darkness. He wasn't seen as a player in some grand cosmic plan. He was the villain, the betrayer, the man who sold the Son of God for silver. And in this version of the story, that kiss in the garden wasn't destiny. It was a choice. However, in the Gnostics' version of the story, it was completely different. Jesus picked Judas to enact his plan. He wasn't being rebuked, he was being trusted, and with that trust came weight, heavier than anything he had ever known. He would do something no one else could, something no one else would ever forgive. "They will think you betrayed me," Jesus said, "but you are the one who will offer me up, and in doing so, you will set me free." Death, he explained, was not defeat, it was escape. The crucifixion wasn't a tragedy, it was a jailbreak. He would go down in history as the traitor. He would be remembered with spitting mouths and clenched fists. His name would be poison. And as Jesus embraces his fate, so does Judas, each playing a role in a divine drama that no one else can see. One will die, the other will be damned, but both will fulfill the secret mission of salvation through awakening. And Judas was the only one brave enough to hold the key and turn it. Jesus didn't promise Judas glory, he promised him infamy. After revealing the true nature of his mission, Jesus warns Judas of what's to come. The others will never understand. The world will twist the truth. And Judas, the only one who truly saw the light, will become the most hated name in history. You will be cursed by the other generations, and you will come to rule over them. It's a chilling prophecy. One part damnation, one part divine inheritance. To the outside world, Judas would be remembered as the traitor, a man who sold his teacher for silver, a soul damned to eternal fire. But in the hidden layer of Gnostic truth, his act was obedience, and his curse, a crown. He accepted exile, shame, and hatred so that the true Jesus could be freed, so that the soul, imprisoned in flesh, could awaken and find its way home. This is not a story of betrayal. It's a story of sacrifice, not the sacrifice of Christ's body, but the sacrifice of Judas's reputation, legacy, and name. A man who became a villain to fulfill the will of a God that no one else could see. And so, Judas does what is asked of him. He leaves the secret meeting. He re-enters the world of men. He carries the weight of a choice no one else understands, and walks straight into history's most misunderstood moment. The betrayal, the arrest, the trial, and the crucifixion, all according to the plan. But before the gospel ends, before the nails, before the cross, we're left with one final image. Judas, alone, set apart from the others, not rejected, but chosen, not lost, but entrusted with the final key. And through his act, the man that clothed the light is stripped away. In the Gospel of Judas, Jesus is not a sacrifice, but a liberator. Not a redeemer through blood, but a revealer of truth, a messenger from beyond the veil, sent from the highest realm to expose the system for what it really is. He tells Judas that the other disciples are asleep, that their worship is misdirected, that they follow a God who demands sacrifice, who rules through fear, who created a world of decay, death, and deception. A God who is not the Father, but the jailer. This is the Gnostic Christ, a being of pure light, descended into matter not to fix the world, but to show us how to escape it. He doesn't come to establish a kingdom on earth. He comes to undermine the illusion, to awaken the spark buried in the soul, to teach that the true God, the invisible Spirit, has no temple, no priests, no punishments, only light and memory. In this vision, Jesus' crucifixion isn't the center of salvation. It's a necessary exit from the false creation. His body is the final chain, and once Judas helps him break it, the divine essence within can rise past the archons, past the planetary spheres, and return to the pleroma, the fullness of being. This Jesus doesn't demand loyalty. He demands understanding. He doesn't ask for blind faith, he asks for awareness. And while the world would go on building churches and rituals in his name, he tells Judas plainly, "Those who do so will never know the truth." In this gospel, the message is clear. Jesus didn't come to start a religion. He came to destroy the illusion. For nearly 2,000 years, the Gospel of Judas was lost, not by accident, but by design. Early church fathers called it heresy, dangerous, blasphemous. They claimed it glorified betrayal and denied the suffering of Christ. They saw it for what it was, a direct threat to the version of Christianity they were building, one based on obedience, hierarchy, and sacrificial redemption. To accept the Gospel of Judas would mean rethinking everything, that salvation isn't found through blood, but through awakening, that the God of law and wrath might be an impostor, that the most hated disciple in history might have been the only one who truly listened. And so the gospel was buried, literally, hidden in the desert sands of Egypt, sealed away in a tomb and left to rot. But even now, its meaning remains divisive. Some scholars believe it's a theological satire, a Gnostic rebuke of mainstream Christianity. Others see it as a mystical revelation, passed among hidden sects who viewed Judas not as a villain, but as a kind of dark messiah, cursed by history, crowned by truth. Either way, it asks questions that few dare to entertain. What if betrayal was a sacred task? What if damnation was the cost of knowing? What if the truth was never meant to be accepted, only remembered? And perhaps the most dangerous question of all, who decides which gospels are true and which must be buried